Hello friends, welcome to this series of Learning Python. And my name is Kapil Shukla, and today we'll be starting our journey to learn Python. In today's session, we'll be covering what is Python, why one should learn and use Python. We'll try and understand what is Python really good at. We'll also take a look at where is Python used in today's world and what are the areas where Python is not so good at. We'll quickly check how is Python managed, and then we'll try to learn how to install Python, what is Python IDLE, how you can run your Python programs. We'll take a quick look at how Python actually runs your program. We'll understand how to install PyCharm and some of the other resources which you can use in this course to learn Python. We have so much to cover, so let's get started. Now, what is Python? Python was created by Guido van Rossum in year 1991 as a hobby project. Now, Python is an interpreted high-level programming language used for general purpose programming. If you are not from computer background or you don't have any programming experience, a programming language is a formal language which allows programmer or the person who's writing the program to write specific instructions, also known as code, to be executed on the computer. The term Python is also used for a software program called Python Interpreter. And this is the program which is responsible for running the Python programs which you, me, and other Python coders are going to write. Python Interpreter is a program which reads, evaluates, and executes instructions written using Python programming language. Let's move on. Now, why you should learn and use Python? Let me tell you why you should learn Python first. It is extremely easy to understand, very easy to learn, and yet very, very powerful. It is a very simple syntax which can be picked up by anyone who's also coming from a non-computer science background. It has advanced data structures which allows you to focus on the problem you are trying to solve rather than create those data structures within your program. Python maintains software quality. Python's code is extremely easy to read, thus very easy to maintain if somebody else has written it. It maintains its software quality by forcing the indentation as per its design. Python improves developer productivity because it has no build time and it has far lesser code in comparison to Java and C++. Python provides a very strong support. There's a large collection of standard libraries which you can use to develop your own programs, and it has a very, very strong community support in case if you need any help. As it is a general purpose programming language, you can use it for multi-purpose reasons. You can use it for automation, monitoring, and many more other things which we will take a look at in the next slide. Now, what is Python good at? As previously mentioned, Python is a general purpose programming language. That is, you can use it for scripting tasks, automating repetitive tasks usually used by system administrators or that kind of a job. You can use it for web development, data science, machine learning, numerical and scientific computing. A lot of big companies in today's world use Python, and to name some of them, Google, Facebook, NASA, JP Morgan, Atlassian, all of these have big developments going on using Python. However, there are some areas where Python is not the right choice, and those are low latency applications where speed is essentially important, embedded systems where you need to interact with the hardware at a low level, and mobile development where Python has not established itself yet. Now, let's understand how is Python managed. Python Software Foundation, also known as PSF, manages and oversees the development and roadmap for Python development. This is the organization which decides which next version of the Python is coming out, when is that new version is going to be released, what new features are we going to release in the new version, and if at all they feel that a feature is obsolete, they decide on it whether it needs to be deprecated in the upcoming versions or not. PSF is a non-profit organization, and it also deals with any intellectual property issues. Python Software Foundation organizes Python conferences, and these conferences are called PyCon. They are organized in all major cities around the world. If you happen to be in one of these major cities and are interested, you can look up at the next PyCon and attend them. Now let's take a look at how to install Python. Python can be downloaded from its official website, which is www.python.org. Depending upon your operating system and the time when you're downloading, you will see the latest version of the Python. When I recorded this video, the latest version of the Python is 3.6.4. However, when I installed it, I got a version 3.6.5. I have created another video where I have shown step-by-step instructions of downloading the Python and installing it on your machine. I will paste the link of that video in the description box below, and you can watch the video and follow those steps to install Python on your machine. Now, once you have installed Python on your machine, you can verify if the Python is installed by opening the command prompt and typing Python space -- version. This will print the version of the Python which is installed on your machine and confirm the Python installation is complete. Now let's move on to the next slide. Once Python installation is complete, with the Python installation, Python IDLE, that is Integrated Development and Learning Environment, is also installed. This is equivalent of the command prompt or terminal on your Windows or Linux or Mac machine. You can find IDLE under the Start menu on your Windows machine, and then you can execute Python statements in IDLE. This is also known as REPL, that is Read, Evaluate, Print, and Loop, where Python IDLE reads the instruction or the Python statements which you provide, it evaluates and executes them, prints the results, and then loop back again to read the next set of instructions. Python IDLE is very similar to the Python prompt. However, it provides additional features like auto indentation, code completion, and code highlight. There are other available IDEs which we can use for Python development, which are PyCharm, PyDev, Spider, Eclipse, etc. For our course, we will be using PyCharm community version. Now let me show you how does this IDLE looks like. Now, this is the Python IDLE. As you can see at the very beginning, it is showing me the version of the Python which is installed. And these three greater than sign is actually the Python prompt. On this prompt, I can type my Python instructions. And as per the convention, let me type a hello world instructions on this. I'm going to type print hello world. And we'll be covering details about this print function and the syntax. But right now what matters is if I input this command and press enter, this will print hello world on the Python IDLE. I can use Python IDLE as my simple calculator. So if I typed 10 plus 21, so the result is 31. If I did 767 minus 525, very quickly I'll get 242, which is correct. I can also do a quick multiplication, which is 886 multiplied by 756, and the answer is 669,816. So you can use Python IDLE to do some quick calculations or use it as your alternative calculator as well. However, you can write full-fledged Python programs using IDLE as well. For our course, as I mentioned, we'll be using PyCharm, which is an excellent IDE for Python development. Now let's take a look at how to run your Python program. Throughout this course and in the future lecture, we'll obviously be covering this in greater detail. However, I want to give you a quick glimpse of how you can run your Python program. You can run your Python code either interactively or via a Python file. We have seen the examples in the last slide of running Python code interactively on IDLE. Using the same approach, you can either use IDLE or Python command prompt on Windows command prompt or Mac or Linux terminal. However, the code typed on the Python's interactive prompt is lost after execution. It is never stored. If you need to save your code for future executions, you'll have to save the code in a file and save this file on your machine. Python code files are saved with an extension of .py, py standing for Python. Python code files are also called modules or programs. Python modules or programs can be run with the same Python command and by providing the module name, that is Python and then the module name myprogram.py, where my program is the program name. Let me show you an example of how to run this Python code via interactively or via a program. I will use IDLE for this. As in the previous example, we used IDLE to print hello world, and let's do that again. Now this is an example of running Python code interactively. However, this code, if I want to run this code again, I'll have to type my instructions again. In order to run this as part of the program, I can open up a new file and write the same instruction. And save as myprogram.py. I've already written this program, but I will just override this file now and run this module using F5 or run and run module option. And it prints the hello world, which is the instruction I wanted it to execute. Now let me go to the command prompt, and this program is already in my directory, and let me try to run it using the command prompt. As I mentioned in my slide, to run this program from the command prompt, I will type Python and then the program name, which is myprogram.py along with the extension. And you can see I get the same result. So this is an example of how you can run your code interactively as well as via Python program files. Let's move forward. myprogram.py was the name of the file I created and which contains Python code to be executed, as I've shown in the example. Now let's take a look at what happened behind the scene and how Python was running the program. Now, even though I mentioned that Python is an interpreted language, which means it translates the Python code instructions line by line, but what is really happening is Python is compiling the source code into an intermediate code, something called bytecode. So you have a source code, and the compilation process happens and converts the source code into bytecode. Now this bytecode is actually passed into what we have as Python virtual environment, or you can treat this as Python interpreter, where the execution of this bytecode happens. Now bytecode obviously runs faster than the text statements which you have typed in the Python program file. Some of the facts about this bytecode is that they are stored in a file called .pyc if the Python has written access to your machine. That is, if it can write or create this .pyc file, this file will be stored and would contain the bytecode. If the Python doesn't have write access to your machine, this bytecode is created in the memory and is lost after the program execution ends. In Python 3.2 and later, as an example 3.6, which is the version we are using, the bytecode is stored in underscore underscore pycache underscore directory, and we'll be taking a look at this naming convention later in this course. The name of the bytecode file also has a Python version which created the bytecode. So that means you can use more than one version of the Python on the same machine, and Python will remember which was the version used to run the Python program. Now, when you run the Python program second time, Python doesn't do the compilation if the bytecode is already present and the source code has not changed since the last compilation time. Python is able to check this by looking at the last modified time of the source code and the last creation time of the bytecode. If the Python version is the same which created the bytecode, obviously the bytecode is again not created. I hope this is all clear, but don't worry if some of these concepts look a little alien to you right now, as I'll be covering these later in the course in more greater detail. Now let's take a look at PyCharm, right, which is one of the most distinguished IDEs for Python development, and how to install it. I have another video showing step-by-step instructions on how to install PyCharm on Windows and Mac, and I'll be putting the links to those videos in the description box below. PyCharm is a complete IDE from JetBrains, and it has a commercial, which is a paid, and a community version. We'll be using community version for our course. If you are using Windows or Mac and even Linux desktop like Ubuntu or Linux Mint, you can still use PyCharm and install on your machines. The installer of PyCharm can be downloaded from JetBrains' official website, which is www.jetbrains.com. And you can download the installer and begin the installation by starting the executable file. All those instructions are shown on my other video on how to install PyCharm. I'll move forward. Now, some of the other resources are Python's official documentation, which is a great resource if you need any kind of a help, and it can be found at www.python.org. Python tutor mailing list, which you can use to ask questions or doubts to the strong community which Python has to offer, and also the GitHub repository for this tutorial, which is github.com/quantfineart/fundamental Python tutorial. This is the place where I'll be putting up all these presentations and the source code which we will discuss during this course. If you are finding these videos helpful, please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to get notified for new videos. If you have any suggestion or feedback, please let me know via your comments so I can enhance or improve on these videos. You can also share these videos with anyone who wants to learn Python. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.